We have a great episode for you. Like we promised last week that we will be covering the debate and giving our analysis based on the performances of the candidates, and we have that geared up and ready to go. And so Seth's going to introduce himself, and we're not going to waste any time because we have a 2 hour long video that we want to go over, and we're going to stop. Yeah, we're going to stop in the middle of it, and so we'll chime in from there. But yeah, with that being said, Seth, let people know what's going on.
Yeah, we were gonna stream live originally, but it's kind of wasn't working with our schedules. Plus, we'd like to be able to stop and talk if we need to, because we're not just watching it. We do plan on commenting on their answers and stuff. But as long as this episode is, we might need to save it for the end or something, just to power through it. We'll see how this ends up going, but I think it's 2 hours 15 minutes or something, or maybe it's an hour 45, somewhere.
I think like an hour 45 if you take out the commercials, but then it's stopping and chiming in probably would get us there to like 2.
I think that's what my math was actually. Yeah.
All
right. Well, let's see how well the Republicans did in this primary here. Let me share my screen. Whoops. All right, here we go. Let's get this thing started. Oh, wrong way. Right. This is why it's just going to go.
Bear, this is the very same stage on which the Republican choice for president will accept the party's nomination next summer. The 8 contenders positioned by the order they sit in the polls, with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
I think we skipped that, right?
Big live.
Former Vice President.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Governor Chris Christie.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Okay. Some ground rules for tonight. We'll ask the questions, and then candidates get 1 minute to answer. If someone is singled out, you get 30 seconds to respond. And when the time runs out, we all will hear this. Very pleasant.
So tonight, these candidates have a big opportunity to break out of the pack and to explain why they are best prepared to be the Republican choice for president at a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President Joe Biden, is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
They call my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But is it? More than 65% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people's out here homeless because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford a house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond. It is by a singer from Farmville, Virginia, named Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C. is about 100 miles north of Richmond.
These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control, want to know what you think.
You've seen this video become famous before, right, Jesse?
Yeah, it's like the #1 song on Billboard right now.
Turns out this guy's not even a Republican.
No, he's moderate.
Yeah, he came out. He's like, well, I don't want these Republicans to use my name to think I represent them or something like that. It's kind of funny how
he's moderate.
Yeah. All right, let's
Wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men,
So, Governor DeSantis, why is this song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable, it's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot succeed when the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars. Those rich men north of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country. I showed it could be done in the state of Florida. I pledge to you as your president, we will get the job done, and I will not let you down.
No problem.
Thank you.
You said pause.
Yeah. So I mean that is his, I guess, his opening statement. I mean a lot of it was BS.
It's probably all BS.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know inflation was caused because COVID shut everything down, and everyone.
It's a supply crisis.
Yeah, and everyone went out, had a whole bunch of money, and spent it all at one time, and it caused inflation to go up high. And now we've been trying to suck money out of the system. This is not really. I know people are trying to make it a partisan issue. It's not really a partisan issue because the reality is inflation was going to go up. To some places of,
it happened globally. It wasn't just the United States.
Yeah, everyone just had money, and it was too much circling in the markets. And so, by him saying that it's Bidenomics, it's the reason why inflation is going up and why hardworking people can't get jobs. Right now, it's BS. I mean, hardworking people right now can't get jobs because at the end of the day, you're in the party of not creation of jobs. The party is only to reduce the tax liability of the rich. It's not there to build up anything. That's not its design. And we'll see that later on when Tim Scott, I think he said something like about tax cuts. But you'll see. I just wanted to chime in on that part that like it's actually a false statement he made.
Yeah, I mean, inflation has nothing to do inherently with the spending as much as it depends on like where there's more demand for something than they have supply because, that's why it was such a shock is they went the entire pandemic and they had a certain amount of supply because people weren't buying. And then all of a sudden, globally, people were starting to leave their house and then everything was inflated. And like Biden, right now, our inflation is like low. Biden legitimately got it down to a low level. Like a safe inflation rate is like 2 to 4%, and I think our inflation's at like 3% now. When it was at 9 at one point, but there's like tens and tens of like developed countries that have a much higher inflation rate than us right now, and like it just shows that Bidenomics or whatever, or Biden's actual plan to reduce inflation actually worked. And people still think we're in like heading towards a recession, but we are like an incredibly healthy economy right now. We just have like a lot of risk with whoever takes over next in 2024, which we're about to find out here.
Yep.
Let's just continue.
Governor Christie, do you agree with Governor DeSantis just said there? And why would you be better on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here that we would agree predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference. The difference is that we're going to have to work and make sure that we sell these ideas and be able to put ourselves in a position where we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate, in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making, brought them around to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad Democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is this, Brett. We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey, when you were governor, had the second lowest credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has, you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state. We cut that state debt that had been left to us by 3 Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in 0.5% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to police to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee that was killing the taxpayer.
Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The song also goes after welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending, this was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what have you done to rein in the increasing size of government?
Well, thank you for the question. Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off at Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses. I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family $4,000. If you don't send it to Washington, we can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay, but just to follow up, you did, during the Trump administration, you approved $4.4 trillion, $4.1 trillion, $1.7 trillion over the course of that administration. That's a lot of money.
There's no doubt that during the Trump administration, when we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time. We had low unemployment, record low unemployments, 3.5% for the majority of the population, 70-year low for women. African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had an all-time low, but our inflation was at 2%. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to these answers.
If I may,
hold on
that
one
was
second.
our administration, so I don't know if I get a chance to respond.
He didn't mention you specifically, but we'll be with you in a second, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ramaswamy, listening to all of this, why should voters choose you over more experienced politicians on this stage? You're basically, a blank slate for people. You're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment, this political race.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apoorva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think, Brett, is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American today. If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, to you, Governor Haley. So why are you better positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight than Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now? He's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmark. Republicans.
Sorry, but I paused, and that was an issue.
Okay. Well, what do you want to chime in on that part?
Yeah, I had to refresh the screen because it, which I felt like would be just comment. Vivek was doing good in that opening statement. In the future, I would want to pause. So.
Yeah, he was doing well.
Sorry about that.
And obviously, we should put the
that was a strong opening.
Yeah, live streams are always like this, especially when you're restreaming off of someone else's platform. And I was just saying, put a disclaimer out there. We're going to probably have some technical issues today.
Yeah, anything wrong?
Looks like here. Yeah, so Ramaswamy. Yeah, Ramaswamy, my 2 cents on him is he is charismatic.
Got the right part, right?
Hmm? Yeah, that was the right part. Yeah, he was charismatic. He was very charismatic in the opening by trying to say that he has a vision for the future without saying he has a vision for the future. So,
yeah, he handled it very charismatic.
Yeah, very charismatic, but he's doing the politician thing.
It was clearly rehearsed.
Clearly rehearsed. It's like we need to move forward to a vision, and he didn't even establish what vision he was looking forward to. He was just saying it has to be young people. But what vision is that? What young people? He never established that. I don't think he ever established that nowhere near in this debate. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, being vague is definitely a part of getting a broad base of support.
Exactly.
That's kind of how Obama did it. We want hope and change. Like nothing specific there. Just we want things to change. And everyone's like, yeah, I agree.
Well, he was a symbol of hope and change.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that was like his slogans too.
Yeah, no, that was his slogans, but he was kind of the symbolic of that slogan. By electing him, he brings new hope and the fact that we have changed as a country from our past. So it kind of Obama's marketing was very driven towards him and this idea of moving on to a new chapter in American history, away from the slavery chapter and the racism and all that. He was supposed to be that into that chapter of American history. And
he's the person everybody was supposed to project their hopes and desires of their vision or whatever onto him. When in reality, politics happened. He didn't get a lot done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stagnation in the Congress and stuff. You can't really blame it all on Obama, but he was not effective for a lot of change in the country. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, and I don't think Vivek, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think he is going to be able to do that either. Unlike,
yeah, I mean, you definitely can't run on change and be a Republican. That's kind of
well, his biggest issue is that he's an outsider. He's 38 years old, and he has no kind of political ties to wield the House and the Senate to do anything for him. And that's his kind of his big issue. Like, at least when Trump came in, he had political ties. Yeah, he was an outsider, but Trump has been involved in politics for 30, 40 years. He just hasn't, ran. In this case, Vivek is 38 years old, and he's never ran, never had any political ties before this. And so I wondered, how is that going to be effective to govern when you really don't have a loyalty base?
Yeah, I heard today that, I don't know how accurate it was, but it was supposed to be a report that Vivek's plan is to just nuke Ron DeSantis' campaign.
Yeah.
And that's why he's just kissing Trump's ass left and right. You can't stop. He's running against Trump. He's kissing Trump's ass because he's trying to just clear the lane for him. So we'll see. We'll see if you can see that in his performance today at all.
Yeah, hold on. There's someone chiming in. He says, give me one time in history where socialism has caused anything but poverty. Well, I think
depends on how you define socialism.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Grossman. I think you're talking about socialism under an authoritarian idea, which I think Jeff has this debate several times on this channel about. And if you're talking about that, that's never been successful.
It's had like limited success. You know what I mean? Like there was a market socialist country in Yugoslavia.
I was talking about authoritarian ones. That's what
it was still authoritarian, but he was like one of the few examples of he was considered a benevolent dictator. He held on to, it was Tito in Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
And he held on to like all the power, but he also was super anti-Stalin while being a part of the Soviet bloc. So they were constantly feuding, and he created like a market-centered socialist economy.
Yeah.
With a bunch of co-ops, but there's a lot of state ownership and suppression of free speech and stuff like that. So it was obviously not good, but it did not lead to just like it made the economy better off than it was before. So I wouldn't say it led to poverty and stuff like that, but the closest examples to socialist countries today are the most successful countries, and they're social democracies. So if you define socialism as 100% socialized or public-owned economy, I will agree with you. There's not a lot of examples, but all right, we might as well get ahead.
Yep.
So we can catch up here.
But stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence.
That was very strong on her. To go after her own party. To go after your own party on Republican debate is very, very strong. To me, that was it kind of separated herself in terms of showing that she's a puppet.
She's kind of signaling to the old conservative base, the Tea Party base, which has kind of been completely off the map since in the Trump era.
Yeah, but there's a duality I think she's reaching for, that she's not a puppet and that she is stronger than we perceive her to be, because that took a lot of courage to do that at a Republican debate.
Yeah.
So that was a good one point. I mean, That was a win for
I see her as like the Elizabeth Warren of this race.
I think she had better
Like-
shots. She had a better shot than Elizabeth Warren, but
You said she has a better shot?
yeah, winning.
I don't know. I mean, at one point, Elizabeth Warren was like leading in the polls.
Yeah, but she was kind of running on the Bernie lane. Everyone knew Bernie was eventually going to take that wing over.
I think I remember points where it was Warren's race to lose. And then I can't remember exactly what happened, but something happened. She just sort of dropped down. But there was definitely a point when everybody thought Elizabeth Warren, because she was not as far as Bernie and she was not as centrist as all the other candidates. So she kind of had her own lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that did not work out.
Did not.
54% of voters say the cost of groceries is a, quote, major problem for them.
Right.
You blamed the Biden administration spending for that increase. But as vice president, your administration spent more than any prior, $7.8 trillion added to the national debt, $3.5 trillion of that before COVID. So does that mean that you're part of the spending problem?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for letting me respond to a reference to our administration's record. I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. I mean, in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We unleashed American energy. And we appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that gave the American people a new beginning for the right to life. Now, Martha, you asked earlier who's the best prepared for this job. And I must tell you, with all due respect to all of my friends on the stage, and even to one that's probably looking on, I think unquestionably I am the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States. I led Indiana where we balanced budgets and had a AAA bond rating when I was governor. And as Vice President of the United States, we spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration, and then we were there in the worst pandemic in 100 years. All that being said, I was the first person in this race to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity, restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor and when I was vice president.
But,
Yeah,
I mean,
if I
hold
may
on.
respond to
Yeah.
that, since I was-
You were named earlier. I'm going to get Vivek
Can you
first.
say pause?
No. What made a time in Pence is telling me he's a super conservative, Bible-loving guy. That's just
Yeah, I feel like he didn't answer his spending question very well. He kind of
he was never going to answer that question. He spun.
Yeah, because they did spend a shit ton for conservative. He's like, I have a plan for fiscal conservatism after we spend all this money. Like, okay.
Yeah. Totally pivot. That was a classic political pivot.
Not terrible, but let's see.
We'll get to both of them.
Yeah, this isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it.
Well, let me explain it to you. Vivek, if I can. I'll go slower this time.
I sometimes struggle with the reading comprehension.
Look, I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I actually pushed a deficit reduction act. That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States when I was the leader of House conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring people
It's 30 seconds when you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up, Governor DeSantis.
So here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
And the culture war there.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. I mean, CNN did a good breakdown. Actually, they broke down this whole entire skit with DeSantis, where he's claiming that he kept Florida open and he was the freest state in the union. All that was BS. Anyone that lived in Florida, and even yourself, you lived in Florida at that time, and you worked in the service industry, Florida was shut down. We were not moving around. We had restrictions just like the rest of the country.
Maybe less, but
no. When the pandemic first started, when the COVID first happened, we had the same restrictions as New York and California. We weren't different. The only thing that DeSantis did was those states said, look, we have to be cautious and take our time and wait and slowly open up things little by little. DeSantis was like, no, we're just going to rip the bandage off and everything's going to open back up. I don't care. And that's all he did different. And in that time frame, a lot of people moved because they were tired of the restrictions in the other states. And so they moved to Florida because we're the only ones who actually was opening up at a rapid pace. And so that's all that was. And I know he takes a lot of credit as if he was like this guy who had the foresight to know that COVID wasn't a big deal, which it was. And he kept it open. But the reality is he closed it just like every other state was closed. He just opened it a lot faster than everyone else. And CNN broke it down too. They actually gave a timeline of everything. I'm giving just a rough estimate. So it was misleading what he was saying there. Look at this vice president debate. Good lineup. Yeah, I agree with you. This is definitely a vice president debate. If it's going to be a vice president, I mean, this is a weak ticket. Anyone that runs with Trump on this, that's actually this debate with Trump would lose in a general election. But yeah, go ahead, Zeth.
You know what? We're going to bring in.
I just want to finish responding to Mike. I just want to respond to Mike for 1 second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality and the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American revolution.
We're going to take control back here.
We need everyone to have a moment on the economy.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Can I address the COVID
there are two
issue
people
that
who
the
have
governor
not.
brought up?
We're going to get back to that. We are. There are two people who we have not heard from yet. So let's hear from Governor Burgum and then from Governor Hutchinson on the economy, sir.
Well, great. Thank you, Martha. And of course, I'm from a town of 300 people. It's a big deal to make it on this stage with all these folks. But when they were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg. But I do want to say on this, we're missing something. We can't just talk about the Biden economy because the economy, energy, and national security are all tied together. Of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil, well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy diesel at 20% off, just like they're buying it in China.
Governor Hutchinson.
What was that?
Yeah, Doug Burgum is one of those guys. Every election cycle, we have one, and it sucks because I hate saying it, but it is very true. He's smart, and I mean, I don't like the way he believes his solutions are, but he is right at analyzing a problem. The problem with people like Burgum, Governor Burgum, is this: when that doesn't come off presidential. It comes off as, you know, the problem, you know, the issue, and that's great that you're able to analyze, but what is your vision going forward? He's not a visionary person. He's an analytical person. And that's great if you want to be the secretary of whatever, of the federal government, because you know how to assess, analyze a problem, solve a solution. But people generally want their presidents just to lay out a vision. They don't really care about the weeds like that.
Yeah.
Me and you do, because obviously we do this for a living, as we, you know. But the average American person wants just a vision. Where are we going? Where you stand? What is it that you envision for the country? And Doug Burgum is, in my opinion, just another. There's always a candidate. There's usually one or two.
He's Republican, pretty much.
Yeah, there's always one or two of them who's really smart, who can analyze a problem. I may disagree with him, but his logic is there, you know. But yeah, that's not presidential. There's no vision in that. You know, you did analyze the problem, you did break it down correctly, but I don't understand what your vision is for the country.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a Secretary of Interior vibes or something like that.
Yeah, secretary. It's like, bro, that's what you are.
Yeah.
Him and Asa Hutchinson, yeah. He's a secretary. And we'll see going forward.
Although Hutchinson hates Trump, so he probably won't be.
No, there's some principle, and when they get into this part of the debate, we'll go into it. There's a lot of principled people. Well, not a lot. I'm reading and counting.
Okay.
Like three principal people on this stage. Everyone else will say whatever to get elected, but there's only three people who actually keep, you know, they'll stand by their principles.
Who's that?
I remember to name them. I think Asa Hutchinson is one, Chris Christie is the second, Mike Pence is the third, and that's it.
I agree.
Everyone else on that stage is going to say whatever they want to say so that you can elect him as president.
No, I 100% agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
They're still the old school conservatives, the ones that have been like, they were like more popular before Trump. Since Trump, Vivek didn't exist, DeSantis didn't exist, Nikki Haley was a governor, but she became UN secretary under Trump. Tim Scott didn't exist. Like, none of these people existed, so that's why they have to, like, their principles are Trumpism. The other people have been in politics, establishment politics for decades, so.
That's correct.
Let's keep on moving forward.
Thank you, Grant. Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a conservative record in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as governor 8 years ago. I tell that because that's what
I thought that was the dumbest and idiotic thing you could ever say on a national stage. I laid off a whole bunch of workers who were government officials who worked from 9 to 5 jobs, and I'm wearing that as a badge of honor.
Yeah, only those rich corporate conservatives would see it that way, or that would agree with him. You know.
But even if you did see it that way, you're running for president of the United States for the common man, the working.
Oh my gosh!
You're working for a common man, and you're saying you're supposed to represent the working people, and that's the statement you make on a national stage. It shows that he's not ready for a national stage. He doesn't even realize the position he's going for is to represent the middle of America and not the corporate elites that fund him. Also, and all three of those people that you just mentioned, they would probably give them a cabinet position, specifically Department of Education. I don't think Trump would give none of these people a cabinet position, honestly.
Well, he definitely would like Vivek for sure.
He will give Vivek a position. Everyone else he doesn't really like.
I don't know how he thinks about Doug Burgum. I feel like he doesn't care enough.
Yeah, Doug Burgum doesn't move a needle for him. I don't think so politically.
Yeah, everyone else kind of boils his blood now.
Yeah, Nikki Haley wouldn't do anything in terms of helping him out, and plus she worked for him already.
Yeah.
Chris Christie wouldn't move a needle. The problem with a lot of these people that are running, it's just people. A lot of people know them already. I mean, some of them they don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not like the ones that they don't know is inspiring enough to kind of move the needle. It's like people to check. Yeah, we know he had zero shot of becoming president, but he did inspire a group of people.
Yeah.
So
he definitely set a name for himself for the future. If he wanted to run for, he's probably going to run for office in Michigan. He moved to Michigan now because it's a blue state. Like, let's be honest, that's why he moved.
Yeah.
So I would imagine in the next decade he will run for some office.
Yeah, and so he's one example of you have people in your cabinet that's going to move the needle, and none of these people move the needle for Trump. I mean, clearly, if he's got 60% of the vote, of people who already said they're going to vote for him in their own party, they're not going to move the needle.
Yeah.
And thanks for following us, Get a Girl 4. We appreciate that. And thanks for the question, Sir Levitt. Get us 69. We appreciate that. All right, let's continue.
Let's keep going.
We need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal, that can actually reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10% our federal non-defense workforce. That's a specific pledge to make that attacks the administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business. But let me tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head of the DEA, in Homeland Security, in times of crisis. And while I think that that's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the President of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have a lot of topics to get to, and I promise we're going to get to everyone if we play within the rules. Okay, next topic. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for in Maui after the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. Hawaii's governor and White House officials said that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
And a tropical storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast of Florida. And in the last month, the heat wave in the Southwest broke records nearly 50 years old.
So Alexander Diaz from Young America's Foundation has a question for you.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander?
So do you want to raise your hand?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, One of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
Let's just answer the question.
So is that a yes? Or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
because
no,
the
I
climate
didn't
change
raise- I
agenda
didn't
is a
raise a
hoax. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
That's just ridiculous.
The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is,
That was obviously absurd.
That was absurd. So this is what happens when you talk too much. So he was actually doing pretty well. You know, I hate to admit it, he was. But when you talk too much, you put your foot in your mouth.
These things apart too much.
Yeah, because here's the thing: Republicans and both Democrats both believe in climate change. It's not a thing where it's just now.
I'd say some conservatives acknowledge climate change. I would say maybe 40%.
But even the not super conservative. Well, look, let's just say you have moderates, Republicans who believes in climate change, and you have some conservatives who believe in it. I mean, it's more of it's the actual fact now.
Yeah.
And I think that by calling it a hoax in 2023, when people were dealing with record-setting heat waves throughout the whole entire country, it shows that he was immature, and he was 30. He's a 38-year-old, pretty much a kid.
Yeah.
And he essentially he showed his face.
I was gonna say that I think they're also booing because he said they're all bought and sold. Like
Well, that's
a lot, they kind of like don't acknowledge that corruption exists. So
Yeah, they're bought and sold. I mean, they can. I mean, half the audience is bought and sold. Do you think those people are actual, just random people? Like, no, those people are all
delegates.
All delegates. Actually, those people are all in their campaigns.
Yeah.
A lot of those people that you hear cheering and booing are literally on the campaigns of those candidates. Let me go through some of Gator Girl's commentary here.
Okay.
It's pretty remarkable. Fox X asks climate question. Yeah, because they can't avoid climate change. They know it's here now. So they had to ask that question. A meatball deflected like the weasel. Yes, DeSantis is a terrible debater. I would give what you Gator Girl for. He's always going to deflect because he really doesn't really have policy positions. He has talking points. Smart. I'm assuming it's a play on Ramaswamy's name. Did the most during the debate. Massive Tattoo energy. Yeah, he's acting like a child, and he came out very strong, and he's charismatic. I give him that. He is very charismatic, but the problem is he's also 38. And when you're 38 years old and you're going against guys who's been in politics for 20, 30 years, and you're talking to people who've been following politics for 20, 30 years, you come off as a child when you were dismissing ideas.
Yeah.
And calling something a hoax when it's almost a scientific fact that there's climate change, it comes off, it shows that you're a child. You know, It's like, because you're not.
Just wants attention.
You just want attention, because by calling it a hoax, you touch the 10-15% of people who believe it's a hoax.
Yeah.
That's great. But the 85% who doesn't believe in it, that's a hoax, I think you're an idiot at this point. It's like, so that's my 2 cents on Ramaswamy. It's just, he's charismatic, and that's a strength of his, but he talks too much too, and that's a weakness. So
it's kind of like Trump's problem, just the ego, where he just doesn't turn it off. You know, he just says whatever's on his mind, good or bad, gets some attention. That's all that really matters. The only good, or the only I can't remember that phrase. Never mind.
Okay. All right, let's keep it going.
Let's go right ahead.
more people are dying of bad climate change policies than than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought
The
and
death
paid
rate
for?
is down by
Hold
98% in the
No
last
problem.
century.
Listen.
I've had it. No,
Wait, hold on.
I've had enough.
So let's pause it here. That's once again a very idiotic statement. Seeing that half of Maui just died and a whole bunch just got burned down, and a lot of people died, and that was a climate change effect. So it just shows once again that he's very inexperienced because he put his foot in his mouth by saying that climate policies have been killing people. When in reality, the environment's been killing people with the
There's
hurricanes.
a lot of conservatives, including my dad, who think like the forest fires are literally started by people like trying to create a hoax, like trying to they acknowledge the fires exist, but they think that they're literally just trying to like pin it on climate change and starting it themselves for like left-wing activism or something like that. So he's catering to a different base.
Yeah, that's 100% fine. But even there's 5 million people I think who watched this debate. 5 to 6 million people who have watched it. Yeah, you talk to maybe 500,000 people who actually believes that.
I agree with you.
You know, and so you just made the other 4.5 million people that watched him. He sound like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So, just my 2 cents on it.
All right, let's try to get through some of this. Let's see.
I've had enough already tonight.
We may have to do it
of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Oh, we just missed the best.
The last person in one of these debates, Brett, who's
The anti-carbon agenda is the wet
This is like
blanket
the
on our
highlighted
economy. And so the reality is more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate
Governor
change.
Haley, are you bought and
death
paid
rate
for?
is down by
Hold on.
98% in the last century.
Listen.
I've had it. No,
Wait, hold on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on the stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
The
bear
same
hug, brother.
type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought and
Brett,
paid
what
for?
I would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. First of all, we do care about clean air, clean water. We want to see that taken care of, but there's a right way to do it. And the right way to do it is, first of all, yes, is climate change real? Yes, it is. But if you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions. That's where our problem is. And these green subsidies that Biden has put in, all he's done is help China, because he doesn't understand all these electric vehicles that he's done, what that does. Half of the batteries for electric vehicles are made in China. And so that's not helping the environment. You're putting money in China's pocket, and Biden did that. So first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting, and that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator
climate
Scott, are you bought and paid for?
So,
Are you bought and paid for?
I'm sorry.
Are you bought and paid for?
Absolutely not. I mean,
it's funny. He said, "Are you bought and paid for, James Scott?" He's like, "Absolutely." He's like,
Say that.
"Oh yeah, absolutely not." It's like when the truth slips out.
Freudian slip, yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Nikki Haley did some. See, that was a good strong. That was a good strong point for her. She came out, got the women. Got the
Yeah, she's
women
not
behind.
good with a moderate conservative. Consolidating that base.
Yeah, she quickly acknowledged climate change. I mean, because that's not even a debate anymore. And she quickly, provided a solution and a vision of what, she should be doing or what we should be doing. Do I
I
agree
can
with
see it
100%?
for Trump versus Haley at the end of this.
I can, because she comes off as a moderate and she's not stupid. like I said, she's right. China and India do cause the most pollution.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to do our part and invest in, you know, clean energy initiatives. I mean, we shouldn't be, the Democrats shouldn't be knocked for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our role in the world. Now, is she right in the terms of, yeah, we have to start holding China and India accountable when they have about 3 billion people and they have almost zero climate change initiatives? Yeah, we do. And we can't continue to keep doing what we're doing and they sit there and don't have to make any changes, no progressiveness at all on their part, you know, and I mean, that's unacceptable too. And so I understand where she's coming from. I just don't think that. I think you can do both. You can continue to do what we've been doing with green energy, and also keep India and China accountable um, in terms of what they're not doing. Um, but that's just overall. You know me and my war in China. I do believe we're in a war with China. I keep telling you guys that. And so that's my position, and I think that's she did that. She laid that out very well.
All right, let's see what Tim Scott has.
Here's what the American people deserve is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth being childish is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. Number two, as a kid who grew up in a single parent household mired in poverty, I wondered, was the American dream real for kids who were devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett. America,
do it quickly.
America has cut. I'm a Southern boy, I talk slow. So America, that was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years. The places where they are continuing to increase, Africa, 950 million people. India, over 1 billion. China, over 1 billion. Why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage, devastating our own economy? Let's bring our jobs home.
We have a lot of different topics to get to.
Yeah, we do. We thank you all. Thank you, Senator Scott. So coming up next, the candidates will weigh in on what could be a defining issue in the 2024 campaign. The first Republican debate continues moments away. Abortion has been a losing issue for Republicans since the Dobbs decision. In 6 state referendums, all have upheld abortion rights in this country. And even in red states, there are more swing state referendums that are coming up as we head into the elections as well on this. So, Governor Haley, what do you say to your party and to your state, which today confirmed a 6-week as well, especially impact on women suburban voters across the country?
I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and having both of my children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. Having that issue, this is talking about, this didn't need to decide something this personal, because it's personal for every woman and man. Now it's been put in the hands of the people. That's great. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus. Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Brett?
That was one of the best conservative answers on abortion I've ever heard. So,
yeah, I guess I concur with you. Obviously, we believe in a woman's right to choose.
Yeah.
That's
but I
our
never
position.
hear them ever make concessions at all. So that's
Yeah, exactly. And I think as a woman, she understands what the hang up is for a lot of women. It's not that, there's certain women who have these beliefs and it is Christian based and it's faith based, and they should not, if they don't want to have abortion, that's fine, but they can't take these beliefs and then try to force I say women, but even the men, the Christian men of faith, force these ideas onto non-Christian women or women who may be Christian who decide they still want to get an abortion because that's not something that God convict them of.
Yeah.
Like that's once we get into that realm of trying to make morality law, and this goes to anything like, criminal justice and all these morality laws, that those kind of laws are essentially the opposite of the ideas that this country was founded on. This country was simply founded on the ability that everyone respects and love each other and continue to pursue happiness, living together. And it was never a system built on dogma or people having a certain type of agenda, now passing laws so that you can oppress the majority.
Yeah.
And that's not what it was. That's not what it is, and it will never be that. And so for Nikki's position to say that, hey, I understand our position as Republicans is what it is, but just to be honest, that's not really that's not really what the country wants.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conservative position to ban all abortion nationwide. There's never actually been a nationwide ban in the United States. It went from being like abortion didn't exist to it was pro-choice. Maybe they had some restrictions in the States, but then it went straight into Roe v. Wade. So it's like there's no like return to tradition in this idea. Like abortion bans are radical and they've never existed. So I like that she at least was trying to play the moderate, even though she said like, don't force doctors who don't want to participate in abortion, as if there's doctors that are like, no, get in there, boy, perform that abortion. Like they have specialized doctors for that stuff. Like no doctor's ever been forced to perform an abortion. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
You know how conservatives are. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty solid answer.
Yeah.
You're not mentioned, Vice President Pence. Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that is a tough thing to sell nationally?
Well, I would say we sold the biggest election landslide victory in the history of the Republican Party in the state of Florida in 2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
We must have a national.
Hold on, Senator. Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause. After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And see, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." And I knew from that moment on, the cause of life had to be my cause. And I've been a champion for life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue. And I promise you, as President of the United States, the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed? A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take unapologetic leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis pregnancies. I'll do that as President of the United States.
He called my name, so I want to
Governor,
respond to that. So first of all, I will say it is.
The problem with politicians like Pence is, once again, it's those kind of ideas goes against the whole fabric of the Constitution. The Constitution clearly states that we should have separation of church and state. He is clearly saying, based on his analysis of what he's saying, he's essentially saying that because I'm a Christian and because I believe this, the whole country should believe what I believe because of my Christian-based faith. And that is literally taking the church and trying to make it an actual law. And that, to me, is why Pence, to me, will be a terrible president. Because if you cannot understand that you're governing for multiple nations, multiple diverse people, multiple religion, and you're going to continue to fight for laws that follow only your Christian-based faith, tells me that you are a person that can't be moved, and you're a person that cannot empathize or understand anyone else besides what you believe. And that's a terrible president. And we already had one. It was called Trump. And it's like, and I took the moment to say that because it's just, I see it and it gives me a pit in my stomach because it's what he's moving us to is a country state that focus primarily on what the king wants.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with Trump. And that's what's happening with Trump. That's what's happening with Pence. That's what happens with DeSantis. You don't say what I like. You don't believe what I believe. I will punish you. And it's taking the power away from the people and turning them into kings.
Yeah, their movement is like Christian nationalism, which is absolutely the opposite of constitutional conservatism. Because, like you said, it's against the Constitution to establish a religion, and they want all the far right Islamic countries are theocracies, and like that's what they hate the most. Conservatives hate those Muslim Sharia law theocracies. Yet it's the exact form of government they're trying to form.
Exactly,
and it's obviously unconstitutional. So they have no idea what their positions would lead to.
Yeah, I mean, and like Great Girl Ford said here, the country already showed the referendum on this decision. It's pretty amazing Republicans are still going with this like it is popular. It's not. And I agree 100%. It's not a popular topic. Republicans will they lose every single poll shows they'll lose. if they'll put this topic as their flagship topic. Yeah, but then they're not going to do this in the general election. I'm telling you right now, the Republicans are not going to talk about this in the general election.
They're not doing it now.
Yeah, they're going to do it now because they're in a primary.
No, like they're not even committing to abortion bans. Like you'll see farther on, like they all concede, like against a nationwide abortion ban. Like they're all like states' rights. They're like, let's ban it at this many weeks. You know, they already know it's a losing issue. They lost in Kansas. They lost in Ohio. They all try to ban abortion. I think Oklahoma, like they would never win on an abortion ban. So
yeah.
Let's see if we can get an hour done today, but
okay.
It's in the hands of the people, and that's where it should be. But when you're talking about a federal ban, be honest with the American people. We haven't had 40 pro-life senators in over 100 years, so no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president could ban all those state laws. Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation to ban abortion after a baby is capable of experiencing pain. It's just going to take leadership.
Hold on.
70% of the Senate does not. You have to be honest with the American people.
We have to have a 15-week limit.
Let's get Governor Bergman for one minute here. But the Supreme Court did overturn Roe v. Wade, and the result of that decision was that it went back to the states. So that's where it is right now. So as I understand it, you are not in favor of a federal ban. What do you say about the states? There's about 5 of them, including New Jersey, I think a few others, that allow abortion up until the time of birth, though. If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first of all, I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution. In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, or importantly, or to the people. We need to get back to freedom and liberty for the people in this country. And we can't have Republicans who fight for 50 years for this great cause to return it back to the states, and then the next day they turn around and go, no, the feds should do that, because the feds are stepping into people's lives, they're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned to the states. This is where it should be.
But Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. Time out. You signed a 6-week ban. Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. So you're saying federally, it's all going to go to the states.
Yes, and what is going to work in New York will never work in North Dakota, and vice versa. That's
Governor
why 50
Asa
states.
Hutchinson,
That's why
right
50
here.
states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address. First of all, the Supreme Court gave it back to the elected representatives, whether it's the states or whether it's the United States Congress. So there is authority, and that's why President Biden is pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is, in essence, abortion on demand through the term. So they have their extreme position at a national level. It's most likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly fine for it to be addressed at the national level as well. Arkansas has the record of being the most pro-life state in the nation. I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also understanding how we have to enhance adoption services, how we have to enhance maternal care. Those things we've done in Arkansas and are important for our nation's future.
There are a lot of issues that are very important. Senator, I'll let you weigh in.
We cannot let states like California, New York, York and Illinois have abortions on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral. It is unethical. It is wrong. We a president of the United States who will advocate and fight for at the minimum a 15-week limit. I am 100% pro-life conservative. I have a 100% pro-life record. I got to tell you though, we must fight for life. Our Declaration of Independence says our Creator gave us inalienable rights that include life. That is a list. That is an issue we must solve. We can't leave it to Illinois. We can't leave it to Minnesota. We can't leave it to Illinois. We must solve that issue with a 15-week limit at a minimum.
Thank you, Senator. I think we're all pro-life, but what I would love is for someone to ask Biden and Kamala Harris, are they for 38 weeks? Are they for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what the media needs to be asking.
All right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis. American cities are in decline. People are moving out as homelessness, drugs, crime move in. There are problems accelerated. They did accelerate during the pandemic and are still rising, actually.
Murders in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, all up 30% between 2019 and 2022. Homelessness is up 11%, the largest jump in recorded history. Vice President Pence, a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing happening around this country is a result of those COVID lockdowns, and is your administration in part to blame for how we got here?
Well, I think what's in part to blame is the Democrats have been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels. I mean, it's extraordinary to think about the violence that's claiming innocent lives literally every week in every major city in this country. And yet Democrats and liberal prosecutors in major metropolitan areas continue to work out their fanciful agendas, to do bail reform and go easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that'll marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. When I'm president of the United States, we're actually going to cut taxes further. We're going to extend those tax cuts, and we're going to close the Federal Department of Education, block grant all that funding back to the states. With a growing economy and educational choice and law enforcement, we will bring our cities back.
Governor Christie, another issue. This weekend here in Milwaukee, reports say there were 30 shootings and a number.
This Department of Education thing, everyone keeps saying on the Republican side, it's idiotic, but everyone keeps saying it, and I guess it's just a talking point that everyone's running with this cycle. No president can close the Department of Education. Every time they say it, it's idiotic, it's stupid, they know they can't do it. They're just saying it so that people...
It's posturing.
It's posturing so people can feel like they're strong.
Yeah.
Constitutionally, they can't do it.
I don't think it would fix anything, though. It's so ridiculous.
So, Sir Leviticus 69, you're saying where in the Constitution of the state they cannot. Okay, so I'll explain to you guys. I mean, there's a thing in the Constitution that's called separation of powers, right? So the separation of powers essentially gives each branch the power to do certain things. The Congress has the ability to raise revenue, tax, and create agencies. When the Congress creates an agency, the president's responsibility under the Constitution is to fill those positions of those agencies. The president cannot close an agency. He can just hire and fire who's in the agency. So when they say that they're going to close the Department of Education, they don't have that power to do that constitutionally wise. The only people who has that power is the United States Congress.
It's not like the Republicans really care about following the Constitution anymore, though.
Yeah, but they still have a Supreme
Whatever.
Court, and if the Supreme Court reads the way the Constitution is written, which they should be since they're conservative.
So conservative Supreme Court.
Yeah, they should read it as the letter of the law. If they're conservative, they will it would immediately stop it. So, yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Sir Sorry, it's late, guys. So I hope that answers your question of how it's why they
Why it's
can't.
not constitutionally viable.
Yes. So that answers your question. All right. But yeah. So if you keep hearing them saying that, it's an idiotic statement. They can't do it legally. They can't do it. They know they can't do it, but it's just a talking point.
I agree.
Number of them, including kids. Add that to the big increase in school shootings around the country. Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also blame Republicans for blocking gun control legislation. What would President Christie do?
You know, I'm proud of the fact, Brett, that I'm the only person along with Governor Hutchinson up on this stage who's actually running United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where there is significant urban crime. And the problem is not going to be solved by more money. The problem is that these prosecutors in these localities in the states are refusing to do their job and to arrest violent criminals. So what a President Christie would do is appoint an attorney general who would instruct each of the 93 U.S. attorneys that they are to take over the prosecution of violent crime in every one of those cities that are failing to do so. We have plenty of room in the federal prisons to lock up these violent criminals and clean.
Okay, that's a lie. Once again, the federal government can't do that. It's just a talking point. And let me explain that so that people don't understand why. The federal government has we have something called the supremacy clause, and it's also called, I can't think of the name right now, but it's the independent state doctrine. Essentially, federal government cannot tell states what to do if the issue is not correlated with a federal issue. So by him saying that he can appoint a federal prosecutor to now prosecute state crimes, that violates the supremacy clause. Well, not, excuse me, I take that back. That's not supremacy clause. That violates the federalism clause, which essentially separates the federal government from the state constitutions. And so what he's saying is technically it's not true. It's false. But I know he's saying it because it's a talking point.
Clean up what's going on all across this country in these individual cities. Secondly, what we need to make sure that each and every one of these criminals understand is that the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father, and then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges, we're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody. In a Christie administration, he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
There's been this big hoopla about Hunter Biden from the far right, saying that, oh, well, he got a sweetheart deal and no one's bigger than the law. That's bullshit. Like, people who can pay the money for a big, expensive attorney always get good deals. Just because Hunter Biden was the public face of that, well, that's going through all of the criminal justice, through all 50 states, through all the counties. That's going on. People with more money get better deals than the person who is poor, who can't afford a really good attorney to give them a good deal. And so you're sitting there trying to say that this one's Hunter Biden is some special character and that this is unfair. Well, then talk about the black kid who can afford a good attorney and the Latino kid who can afford a good attorney, or the working man can't afford a good attorney. That happens every single day in America. He gets shafted for 10 years because he had a bad attorney, and the other guy walks away for probation for a month, and they had charged with the same crime.
Yeah.
So this whole idea is like he's saying, well, it's unfair that he gets a sweetheart deal. He was a prosecutor. He did those deals. And so it's complete BS and is another talking point that's not real based on true facts.
Reality is we have a crime wave in this country and we know how to fix it. The question is, do we actually have the spine to do it? More cops in the streets able to do their jobs without looking over their shoulder for getting sued. And we also have a mental health epidemic in this country. Just over the same period that we have closed mental health institutions, we have seen a spike in violent crime. Do we have the spine to bring them back? I think we should. As president, I will. But it's not just drugging up people in those psychiatric institutions with Zoloft and Seroquel. It's a deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here, too. We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. And I say this as a member of my generation. The problem in our country right now, the reason we have that mental health epidemic, is that people are so hungry for purpose and meaning at a time when family, faith, patriotism, hard work have all disappeared. What we really need is a tonal reset from the top, saying that this is what it means to be an American. Yes, we...
All right, Sir Leviticus 69. He's saying that the Constitution does not specify anything about the federal government having anything over education, so it defaults to the 10th, and the head of the Department of Education is the cabinet position within the presidency, so yes, they can absolutely dissolve it. They could probably bring it in front of the courts, and we currently have a hardcore original Constitution, and they probably side Republicans. Okay, it's not, well, first of all, it's a couple of issues there. Supreme Court never sides with Republicans or Democrats. They're conservative or they're liberal, and that's how they interpret laws. So they don't ever decide because they're a Republican or a Democrat. People do that and say that because conservatives tend to write opinions based on not progressive ideas and reading of the law. So that's an incorrect statement because technically if the Supreme Court ever did side because of a political party, it would be violating the Constitution. They're supposed to be impartial. And a lot of the laws that when we say something's unconstitutional, if you read the Constitution is interpreted throughout the history of the United States. In order for you to know a lot of the things that I'm talking about, you have to read case law that explains certain policies and positions in the Constitution. So a lot of things that you're asking me for to show you in the Constitution, you have to read cases on. And there's over 250 cases on constitutional issues and what the federal government can do and what the Congress can do. What else? And
Definitely doesn't say what Republicans will try, though. They'll try anything. It's just whether or not it ends up holding up in the Supreme Court, which, for the most part, makes me nervous.
I'm not too sure what you're saying here. You're telling me go look up the Constitution, go look up the case law. Well, I went to law school, and I'm an attorney, so I think I know the case law, and I've read the Constitution. And I'm not too sure. It seems like you're trolling. And listen, I'm, and I'll say this for anyone: we love to. I would answer these questions if you have a serious question, but we don't do trolling. The moment you start trolling is the moment I silence you and I don't respond to your questions. If you have a real knowledge and you have some interesting perspective, I usually stop it and allow you to chime in. But at this point, I don't even think. Yeah, like I said, I think you're trolling.
All right, let's see if we can get through an hour.
Yeah,
We got 20 minutes left
yeah.
of the video, and we
We'll
got 10 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna
extra.
Let's go ahead. Let's get over that. Yeah.
We're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 because we're not doing a 4-hour episode right now.
Okay, sure.
will stand for the rule of law. Yes, we will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day. And yes, we will back law enforcement because we remember who we really are. And that's also how we address that mental health epidemic in the next generation, leading to violent crime across this country.
Governor DeSantis.
We don't have an identity crisis, Vivek. We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
Well, Mike, I think the difference is you might have some others like you may have on the stage. It's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. Dark moment. And we have to the fact that we're in an sort of cold cultural war.
You are
and we have to
equating the
recognize
American
that
people with the failed
win.
government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
So, let me just finish addressing that slogan because I don't know what that slogan means. We need to shut down the administrative state. That's actually how we translate it.
Crime has been on the rise in Florida, Governor DeSantis. How do you stop crime?
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low in Florida.
Miami.
We're happy with that. Well, the statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. These hollowed out cities, this is a symptom of America's decline. And one of the biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these radical left-wing district attorneys. They get into office and they say they're not going to prosecute.
You know who else George Soros is funding?
Who?
Vivek Ramaswamy. Did you see that?
No.
He's literally funded by Soros. Like, there's like a whole, like, I don't remember. He did something with George Soros or whatever. Like, whatever.
DeSantis, he's gonna say it, but he fired 2 prosecutors.
Oh,
yeah, he fired 2 prosecutors, and it's like, oh, well, I fired them, and it's like, yeah, it was so bad that the federal courts were like, yeah, he shouldn't have fired you. I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, blaming George Soros for everything is pretty much, it's like an anti-Semitic trope.
Yeah.
Usually, where they just think like Jews are funding everything, and yeah, he's winking at the Nazis. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
Prosecute crimes they disagree with. The inmates start running the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country that's ever done anything about that. Me. When we had 2 of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone. And as president, we are going to go after all of these people because they are hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every corner of this country, and it will stop when I get into office.
Okay, one more here before the break, Governor Bergen.
But Brett and Martha, I just thought it was interesting. You asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what about the crime wave in small towns? Because in a small town, neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps him get the crop off. There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
Governor Hutchinson?
As former head of the DEA, I understand the drug crisis in America. And right now, whenever you look at the challenges in our inner city, there's 3 simple words that would be helpful. 1, enforce the law when it comes to crime. Secondly, let's deal with the challenge of fentanyl. And it's both about stopping the coming from Mexico, but it's also about education of our young people, making sure that we have the tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner city.
Huh?
President of the United States, that will stop. It's at the top with for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the President of the United States.
Thank you.
We're
Hold
gonna
on.
take a break. So, speaking of that, right now you are looking live at Fulton County Jail, where former President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. So next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about the coming trials
Why are
of
they
Donald
cheering?
Trump.
I don't know.
Well, we have a lot to get to in this second hour of this GOP primary debate. Policy discussions.
The top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the, that will stop.
GOP primary debate. You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Damn, Hutchinson didn't do it.
Hold on.
Arnold
So just to be
Christie.
clear, Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand.
No, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And
not
I know
this.
you didn't.
Whoa. No.
What's the
Look, here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And you know, this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you raised your hand supporting.
I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
Look, let me tell you
No, I'm sorry. 30 seconds, Governor Christie.
You make me laugh because
Goes both ways, brother.
you sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer.
Hold on one second.
You sit here in an answer.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
Hold on, Governor Christie.
Hold on.
Well, so listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about. So let's just get through this section. Governor Christie.
You sit here talking about how you want to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
And law and order. And the fact is that it can't be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
Well, it is very true.
That is not true.
It's very true. I read it,
Because
and
there's
I know.
a difference between bad behavior and illegal behavior, Chris. And you as a prosecutor should know better.
Yeah, you know what? I know a lot better.
There's a difference between bad behavior.
And I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it as governor. And I am not going to bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said,
Your MSNBC contributor.
he said,
these are politicized indictments, and we have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution, regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on this issue, but I have another question. I have another question. Hold on, you will. All right. So, President's former vice president is on this stage tonight. He has faced hecklers on the campaign trail over his actions on January the 6th. On that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election.
We could pick up.
So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two. We should be asking ourselves a bigger question
So I think that'd be a
about
good.
the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm
Because we can come. When we come back, because that's a good way to stop, and then we'll on our next video, in our next episode, we'll skip that part because obviously
I was trying to get it like right at halfway, but yeah, we're close enough.
Yeah. I mean, we okay. Mike Pence did his job. Good job. I mean, that's not really a debatable topic. So we'll skip that part and we'll pick off after that topic to whatever topic follows that on the next episode.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but but the whole Chris Christie rant there. Now, so Chris Christie, I liked it because it's like. If some right is right, wrong is wrong, and you stand up to you say it when it's time to say it. And he was booed. He was booed. Obviously that audience is not
Very conservative audience.
very conservative ideas, and it is what it is. The audience was going to boo him, but he stood up what he was going to say, and the American people heard him, and. Like 5 million people watched that. We heard him, and not all of us are booing.
Yeah, he's not speaking to the Republicans in the audience. He's speaking to all the people watching live. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really matter what the attention he's getting. It matters that people are hearing some sort of opposition to Trump because it's kind of illegal in the Republican Party to attack Trump in any way. So,
and the problem, I think Chris is playing it right. You continue to do that because at the end of the day, Trump is in the middle of an indictment. These trials are going to start, and all these evidence is going to start coming out. And every single person who didn't stand up to Trump before and switch faces and to try to stand up to him after he starts getting in more and more legal trouble would now look like a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And their campaign would die immediately. And so it's smart. Right now it's not cool because none of the evidence comes out.
Yeah.
The evidence to leak out of what's happening and the American people, because I saw a poll. This is not actually being talked about at all, but there's a poll where Trump went down 5 percentage points
after the debate or after the mugshot.
After the debate.
Okay.
So he dropped. So that should tell you that his base is solid. I mean, let's be real. He's winning by like 56%. So his base is solid, but it's not like it can be broken up.
Yeah.
And
people just want another option. Like so far, nobody's dazzled them more than Trump has. But
everyone was Trump. Every single last one of them was Trump. The only people who helped themselves in that debate was Christie, Nikki Haley. That was it.
I think Vivek helped himself.
Vivek's coming off as a Trump puppet.
Yeah, for sure. But the Trump people like him.
Yeah, Trump people like him, but he's a Trump.
Somebody is preferring him to Trump. I don't think anybody who's listening to Trump is like, you know what, Trump is my guy. But now I think
I'm going with Vivek. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
But they are seeing him more favorably, and he's definitely helped himself, like his personal approval rating. You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily up in the polls, but he's definitely making a name in the Trump base.
He is making a Trump. The problem, I'm not saying he's not.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that if Trump gets in trouble, no one's going to go run to Vivek to save the party.
Although the Trump people, if Trump can't run anymore. He's kind of done a better job of doing Trump without being Trump than DeSantis is. So he's kind of running the lane DeSantis left. DeSantis was in that lane, and now with DeSantis pushed to the right of Trump, Vivek is now the new Trump, but not Trump. He's not even attacking Trump, which is helpful to him too in his own way. Haley is playing the I don't like Trump, but I'm not going to outright attack him. And Christie is playing the I'm just going to attack Trump. So they all cater to their own lane there.
And I think that's the best strategy if I'm Christie.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think that strategy is going to win out. I think the strategy, because the Republicans, they like strongmen. They're like, for Republicans to always claim that they're all about democracy and they hate socialism or authoritarianism, they always pick the strong man. That's just how they. That's just what they do. Like so Christie is smart to play the way he's playing it. Everyone else that's playing this kowtow to Trump that's going to bite them in the butt. It always does. DeSantis is he's starting to feel it. It's like, yeah, you were saying stuff about Trump now, but the last couple of years you were all about Trump.
Yeah.
And his numbers are starting to slip and slip and slip and slip because Republicans hate that. They hate. I don't want to call him a slithering snake, but
no, that's exactly right. He's kind of squirmy, and he's becoming such a politician when that was kind of his thing. I'm just a regular guy, and I'm just doing what the people want in Florida, and I'm not doing these shutdowns. I'm not beholden to the establishment. When now he's playing all the establishment moves and listening too much to consultants and becoming something that he's not even authentically.
Yeah, so people see that, and his numbers are slipping.
Yeah,
and that's what I said. The only people I think did themselves a favor are Nikki and Chris Christie, because Nikki can take that, run the moderate lane.
What do you think about Pence, though? I'm curious about that.
I think Pence is going to.
He's cooked regardless, but I feel like
he's gonna lay and bury himself in Iowa. He ran a good race. People know who Pence is. His Trump voters were never going to support him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And moderates,
the ultra conservative religious crowd, he'll get some, but
but Trump supporters will never support him. The moderates will never support him.
Yeah.
He has no base.
I agree with that point. I was just saying he did fairly well for Pence in this debate.
He did and that tells you that's always bad. I remember when Jeb Bush ran, and I kind of supported Jeb Bush when he ran for president.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
When I was a Ben Carson supporter.
Yeah, and Trump was killing him, man. It was bad. And the only reason why I was Jeb Bush, because I was a Democrat at that time. Only reason why I was Jeb Bush.
I that.
Yeah,
I knew you supported Jeb Bush, but I didn't know you were cross party.
Yeah, I actually liked Jeb Bush because he was the governor of Florida, and he was actually more moderate in Florida than he led on in that election, because obviously you don't want to come off as a moderate in the Republican primary. So he was like, "Oh, I'm just super staunch conservative." That's what he was saying. Even though anyone that followed Jeb Bush knows, like, no, you're a moderate. And I remember when I was, following him, and I was like, all right, yeah, you're going to run for president. Trump came in, completely sucked the air out of the room. And it was so bad as a supporter of Jeb Bush. When he had a good debate, I was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
He went up 4 or 5 points. I was like, man, this is our comeback. And that's what Mike Pence is. It's like people who listen to him was like, oh, man, he had a good debate. Maybe this might be his comeback. And it's like, no, it's never going to come back. It's like, people know who you are. You're not new to anybody. They don't like it.
No, I disagree. I agree with you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know we were supposed to go too, but I think that was a perfect segue to stop.
It's fine. I was trying to get it perfectly in the middle, which doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, it will go in the middle as soon as we skip that last portion. I think the commentaries asked everyone to Mike Pence did the right thing that day.
Oh.
Y'all raise your hand, and it's like, yeah, we can skip that part. And
Yeah.
so it's like we don't need to go over that.
Cool.
But yeah. So guys, as you can see, we're chiming in, and as you can see, we're active. We're responding to the live stream in real time, and we love your engagement. We want your engagement. Like I said, we don't do trolling. We're not gonna keep going back and forth because we do have a timeline that we have to get our information out. But if it's a quick question, we definitely try to answer it. But yeah, we want to continue to have you guys engage, and we appreciate the people who do come on, and yeah, and to continue to have. We're going to continue to build our community, and
Are we gonna finish the second half tomorrow? Are you available?
Tomorrow night I should be.
Okay, we'll play it by ear, but we'll plan on live streaming tomorrow. Finish
tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night. That should be fun. All right. So, with that being said, stay tuned. Maybe you get a surprise episode tomorrow. You don't know.
Maybe it won't be that surprising though. But
it won't be surprising. But we normally don't do back to backs. But you might get it.
We've done it before. But we'll see. We can't really just end right there, so we'll have to finish off the second half, and then we'll give our full opinions on everything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you guys for viewing. We had a good time. The Republicans suck.
It was a tough one, today.
Yeah. But debates are always fun.
Yep.
So we will see you guys hopefully tomorrow if you show up for the second half. Otherwise, we'll post our videos on YouTube. Hopefully, I can get those out by tomorrow, but we'll see how it goes.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. See you later.
Have a good week, everybody, or day, night.
Night.